Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to wherever it is in the world you are streaming this edition of Live Q&A with WOB. It is Monday, January 12th, 3:15 p.m. Pacific time. What's happening? Allow you guys a couple of moments to enter the chat. If you're joining us here on desktop, you can see it on the side of your screen. If on mobile, it'll say something. Click open that prompt and you will be able to join us in the chat today. Light slate in the association. There have been some light slates lately. I don't know what they're reserving all the big games for, potentially football being over. I guess there's an NFL game tonight, but these games stink. Now, we were blessed with a couple of decent ones over the weekend. There was two or three out of about 15. But light slate. Chat is here. I see the chat. What's up, Rondo? How's my day been? Actually, quite fantastic. It is 72 degrees out. Not a cloud in the sky. It is so clear here in Southern California. You can see all the way to Catalina Island without, even during the summer when it's clear, there's usual haze and humidity or some wind coming off the Pacific Ocean. The marina today looks like glass. Very rare for it to have zero waves whatsoever. So I was at the beach after I got done with the radio show this morning, and I have since come back to say hello and what's up to you guys. Like that, I could be at the beach right now, my feet in the sand, not even watching the waves, just the tranquility of a windless coast, which is a rarity, especially with the Santa Anas coming in soon. Yet I'm here. That's how much you guys mean to me. What's going on, everybody else? What's up, Bart? Bartabum. Have I ever been given an offer by Bill? What are these questions? All right, I guess it's all fair game. I don't want to end up on the Bill Simmons Reddit, okay? He's a pioneer in the industry. It's the one guy I've probably not collaborated with in the entire NBA sphere, NBA media landscape. He's probably the one guy, but that's not from us I've never met the guy. He doesn't know me. I don't know him. So that's the explanation. But I'm always listening. I'm always open. I rarely, if you look at my career in totality, I don't do many collaborative projects. It's always solo acts, right? There's Cassidy and Antonio and Sheed. Those three are like, it's not even that they're so different from everyone else, but producing a good collaborative project, which is multiple co-hosts, requires chemistry on top of everything else. You could have the two most knowledgeable people and or experienced individuals in the industry sitting on a stage together, and the show itself just may not work because whatever chemistry they produce is not attractive to an audience or doesn't reach its potential. Which is why, if you're on that specific topic, I always found the dynamic of, like, Max Kellerman is probably one of my favorite voices in media. And it's not even a matter if he's right or wrong, but I love the way that he articulates his points. He delivers them. And I'm a big boxing guy too. So like his voice is iconic in boxing, and that he's able to cross over other sports just makes it enjoyable experience for me. He's currently partnered with Rich Paul, as many of you know, is the head of Clutch Sports. And I was skeptical on how this dynamic would work, not just because they're from completely different backgrounds. That's not even a reason why a show doesn't work. Because Antonio Daniels and I say it on the show all the time. I have never met someone that I have so much in common with, yet so different. So those opposites attract things could absolutely work. But that show in particular, the head of an agency talking about player deals. I'm like, how much could he actually talk about publicly that like makes for an interesting show? And he's also not infringing on the trust of his clients. Like, he can't talk about, well, this is what we were really doing behind the scenes. Why would anyone ever hire Rich Paul if the first thing he's going to do is go onto a podcast that everyone watches on a very popular network and just babbles and yaps and spills tea? So then his points have to be very politically correct, and it doesn't come off as a show that, because people are looking to be either entertained, informed, or educated with most content, and he has to be very delicate with what he chooses to talk about. He makes the most of it, but I think that show is going to fall short of expectation because there's so much more that he is saying, I promise you. When the red light goes off and they're doing cold opens and making sure you ask the producers, are we vaulted? When you ask, are we vaulted, because you're about to say something that you don't want to end up being recorded or a hot mic or live on air. Everything that's being said vaulted, I bet would be a great podcast, but he can't speak about that shit publicly. So that's also not to say that like Rich Paul's bad on camera. That's a subjective, that is subjective. But how would all of his clients feel, especially the A-listers, where he goes up there? I don't even know if he's done this because I haven't seen enough of the episodes. But if he goes up there and talks about how like Ben Simmons didn't live up to #1 overall player, because Ben Simmons was one of his biggest clients and he got him so much money. And now that Ben Simmons' career could potentially be over as an active player in the NBA, you can go back in hindsight and, talk about those deals. Why would I sign with a guy that has a podcast that's going to be either spilling tea about some of the deals that we did in the past, right? Don't you see how this potentially is going to fall apart? It just doesn't feel right from someone in such a position of power that usually requires secrecy. World Wide Wes, the inspiration for World Wide Wob, the original Rich Paul, was such a fascinating character for 2 decades in the NBA before many of you either started watching or alive. Like, World Wide Wes controlled all of the major deals between CAA, LeBron, Wade, Melo, Chris Paul. He was this agent in the shadows, and he always moved in silence. Silence was like the utmost priority. I can't think of anyone on this planet that would want a podcast less than World Wide Wes. So just coming full circle on that question, I feel I can be an entertaining NBA content creator or journalist because I'm able to speak my mind, and I don't necessarily have to protect business relationships. I have friendships in the NBA with certain players that I obviously like and I'm biased towards. But since I'm able to keep a lot of those private, I don't think it comes off in my content all that much. Thank you for listening. A beach stream. No, I could do a beach stream, but I'd be worried about the connection. What's happening, Danny? Good to see everyone in the chat today. It is a Monday, answering some questions. Shout out to our partners at ProfitX. As you can tell, it is a light slate, and they feature the NFL games at the top of the page. Jazz and Cavaliers, we've got Kevin Love coming back to Cleveland. You got Larry Markkinen, Cleveland, who knows? Donovan Mitchell against the Jazz, too. Celtics and Pacers, no Jaylen Brown. He's all sorts of pissed off from the inconsistencies of the whistle. 76ers and Raptors, Embiid and Paul George are game time decisions. As is Brandon Ingram. This was probably one of the more entertaining games of the slate and of the weekend. Nets and Mavericks, I have nothing nice to say. Lakers and Kings, I don't have much nice to say. Hornets and Clippers, you get my point. All right. Jay Zoo in the chat is asking, let's settle this. After watching Denny versus your Knicks, do you think he is a free throw merchant or legit player? So what I have found from this newer generation of hooper and ball watcher is you guys have essentially drawn a line in the sand with no middle ground, and that everyone who plays is ethical hooper or a foul merchant. Anyone in between. If you go down and watch pickup ball at Venice beach courts, which were for years notoriously rough and physical, then, sorry, I'm waving at my tennis partner, wouldn't stop waving at me. Notoriously physical, drawing inspiration for the movie White Men Can't Jump. If you were to go down there today, you would be shocked. You would be stunned to see any teenager on the court is calling for a foul, like ball. If you so much as hand check them, if you grab their shorts, they will stop and say foul, reset the action. And this is mostly with the NBA to blame due to the micromanaging of physicality enforcement, that it has now trickled down to the pickup level. The younger generation absolutely plays the game where there's no expectation to just like tough it out or fight through contact. No, if there's contact, I'm stopping the play and saying foul because that was a foul. And if you were to go up against an old timer, because these pickup games can certainly mix and match different generations. If you have Gen X versus Gen Z out there, like, man, those older dudes get pissed. Like, stop calling for ball. I'm going to stop respecting your ball call, your and one call, if you do it every time down the floor. I'm barely touching you, kid. Sorry, if they call it in the league, we call it here. And I propose this. I illustrate this moment of pickup basketball because whether it's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Deni Avdija, a lot of these, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Jalen Brunson, many of these stars in today's game are incredibly talented. They dribble, penetrate, they get downhill. And when they feel that contact, you will almost always see their heads jerk back like this. Every time, even if they're the ones initiating it, like this, their heads just keep getting rocked back like they're on some carnival ride until they hear the whistle. Now, those head jerks could be the result of a defender making illegal contact, but it could also be embellishing because they are rewarded by the referees for that type of action. And I think Deni falls into both buckets. I think he does drive enough times aggressively that he's always going to draw contact. And when he does, he sells it quite well. So your typical free throw merchant to me is someone who, even stationary, is looking to get to the free throw line. It doesn't strike me as, Deni doesn't strike me as someone who is standing there intentionally trying to get to the free throw line every single time. He does fight through a lot of that contact. I don't want to say he's the middle ground guy. He's definitely leans towards always embellishing and stuff like that, but he creates enough with his off the dribble. He creates enough. He creates enough pressure on the defense that I think it's just naturally going to happen enough times. He's not nearly as egregious as Luka, as Shai, and some of those other dudes, right? But it's at least a conversation. And that's where I'd like to quickly reiterate a point that we made earlier on the show. So if you listen to that, I apologize, but I'm just different audience here. That trying to figure out how to find this middle ground. Is there a structure in the game of basketball which the NBA could either adopt, emulate, replicate? The answer is yes, actually, because the way that the Olympics are played is just free-flowing basketball. Why is it free-flowing? Because physicality is enforced much differently. Not only do they not reward embellishment in FIBA, you get an unsportsmanlike contact penalty for flopping, right? You'll be shamed by a bench for embellishing, and they will penalize for you much more harshly. So you get a lot less whistles. You have a lot more players understanding that they're not going to get the head thrown back call the way that they do in the NBA. So you have star players who go to the rim thinking, I'm probably not going to get a foul call. I need to finish regardless. And it creates less whistles, flowing basketball. And that's when the sport's at its absolute best. Now, we got a call this morning from someone that I want to propose this to the chat, because we had two separate high school coaches call in and say the way that their teams are structured is that they nominate a captain and a co-captain. If you are not one of those two, and I catch you complaining, conversing, or so much as lobbying the referees, that I will send you to Siberia, which in basketball terms, based on the gentleman who called in today's, is the end of the bench where it's cold by the air conditioner. You're not getting back in. Do not talk to the referees unless you are the captain. And now that we have rules in place, as is, in which players cannot make physical contact, players cannot, what is with this? Are you guys catching this little laggy, like the video like freezes for a quick second? Is that happening to you guys, or is it just me? I think it just did it. It's starting to really fucking piss me off. You know, technology drives me mad. What am I supposed to do otherwise? Where was my point? Shit flusters me. Every time there's a tech issue, I lose my train of thought. Can't anything ever just fucking work? Oh, I remember. The rules are in place already for referees. You cannot make physical contact with them in any capacity. You will be ejected. You'll be fined, all the above. What if the NBA just came out with a rule that was there is zero communication between players and referees unless it occurs during one of two designated points throughout a quarter, which is at the 6-minute TV timeout or the end of period timeout. The only two players will be nominated, a captain and a co-captain, can represent everyone on the team, and that's when you're permitted to converse with the referees to air your grievances. If you do it in any other period, it is an automatic technical foul, potential ejection. This will limit the complaining, the lobbying. We'll get to your point at the 6-minute TV timeout, so you will be heard. We're not trying to silence or muzzle star players and potential constructive criticism that needs to be said, because every NBA game is changing and evolving. What if we had two designated a quarter, so 8 throughout a game, when two players nominated by the coach can go over there and speak with the officials, have their moment. You can take as much time as you need until action, live play resumes. You can go over there. That will prevent all the time that's wasted in refs and star players arguing for like 10 to 15 seconds throughout every game. Players getting into the face and the ear of every official. It slows it down. It just creates a product that attracts nobody. So I thought that wasn't a terrible idea. Rondo says, oh, sorry, I got to catch up on some of these comments. I've been yapping a little too much here. Rondo says, you kind of suit his program because you are also at the crossroads of basketball and pop culture. Oh, you're talking about Simmons. Yeah, I mean, I used to write articles comparing Game of Thrones characters to like NBA players. You know, that's obviously up his alley, the mailbag stuff and conversing with communities and making pop culture references. That's why I think the obvious cohesion would exist, but only time will tell. Sorry, my silence is me just catching up on the comments here, people. Alex says that show is Rich Paul propaganda. Well, yeah, of course. And he's all, I mean, he is speaking highly of his clients, but it's just so obvious that he is. And he's never going to give us the juicy details of what everyone wants to know, like how transactions get done. How do you recruit players? What if a deal goes bad? Interactions with the front office. He's never going to name names when the red light is on. He may do that when they're off air, but never in public. And therefore the show is going to have a lower ceiling compared to what is possible if he had no guardrails and or obligations to his clients to protect their privacy. The moment he breaches that, why would anyone ever sign with Clutch again if he's just going to go on the podcast and yap about me if I leave to go to CAA or something? Well, isn't he at CAA? Isn't technically Clutch CAA? I don't even know. Whatever. Hilwick wants to talk about Peyton Watson, the most talented offensive player named Peyton in the city of Denver. I can't do Peyton like that. Let's see what else we got here. Coach Mike, 28 years old. We didn't call fouls growing up. Too many soft foul calls resulted in a harder intentional foul. Oh, there's a great story. Thank you for Coach Mike for bringing that up. I remember playing a game of pickup in Culver City back in like 2015. And this is amongst friends, by the way, because there are these websites and apps where you can reserve a gym up to like 10 people and everyone pays $12, right? The money goes to the website business as well as the facility for opening up the gym. It's all great. So I end up showing to this Culver City pickup game where everyone kind of knows each other, but there was one person I don't think was friends with, was just there to like hoop and like compete with a bunch of people trying to get a workout in. There's always one of them, right? Of course, I end up guarding this guy. And I am the most stoic defender ever. I'm always there for the workout. It's never that serious. None of us are making the NBA. Pride is not on the line. And there are times, of course, where you need to win a pickup game because if you lose, there's 5 groups of 5 waiting and you'll never see the court again. But this was not one of those times. And this guy just relentlessly thought I was a mismatch. Like, get this guy off me. First of all, I am the best defender in the gym, but he just saw my basic appearance and probably thought I'd be fresh meat. He's like, get this guy off me. This guy's a joke. Y'all need to put a better defender on me than this. Even before, I'm like, okay, just say whatever you want to say. And if you're gonna like chirp like that, you can not also be the dude who calls every single foul. And I mean like the softest of contact made where like I'm shuffling my feet in front of you and you run into me. He would just stop the action completely, pick up the ball and say, ball, foul, ball, foul. And even his teammates are like, my God, this is terrible by the time. So, Coach Mike, I'm telling this story because he's called so many fouls at this point and he's still talking trash and everyone's tired of him. And I go, guys, he's obviously going to call a foul every time. Let's like flagrant foul him. Let's actually foul him since he's going to call it anyway. We might as well, every time he touches it, just put him on the floor. And that's exactly what we did. And boy, did he want to fight. He wanted to fight so bad. I'm like, well, if you're going to call fouls, we're definitely going to foul you now. Like that. No, you got your foul call. And I think he ended up just like storming out of the gym or something and making a whole ass scene, threatening to beat my ass. But nothing was more fun than really fouling him hard, like winding up and follow through. I'm like, that's a foul. That one was a foul. It's like, this isn't even basketball. I'm like, you're telling me. Those people exist. So many people like that exist where they want to run pickup like it's an NBA game, officiated like an NBA game. I can promise you, majority of the people there do not want to play like that. This is the most cooperate answer ever. Okay, thank you, chat. I don't know what to do to solve the minor lag. I think my internet's just a little slow today. I think I'm on the right one. I have two internets and I bounce back and forth between the two. Sometimes one's faster than the other. Sometimes one shits the bed. I'm on the other one. I'm on the police chase one now. Hornets history says Del Curry said the other night versus Utah, no guy has ever complained his way into a foul call being changed, yet they always do it. I don't get it. Right. Well, they're complaining, like Luka's complaining for future calls. He doesn't have an expectation of getting that particular call changed. But if I complain enough, maybe you will become cognizant of what I'm complaining about and give me the benefit of the doubt the next time that this occurs. Rondo says in football, soccer, they implemented a rule that only the captains are allowed to converse with the refs. If someone else tries to complain in any way, they get booked. That's brilliant. What league does that? If the NBA did that, the product would be so much more attractive. Because even a non-ball knower that's just showing up to watch the Lakers play because they got tickets from a friend and they know kind of about basketball, but just there to be entertained, they would walk away from every game saying, man, does that guy complain a lot? Like, yeah, he does complain a lot. And it doesn't make you want to spend more time or more money on it. And the NBA has enough of reputation working against it. You guys are still on the Rich Paul in the chat. I admittedly have not listened to an entire episode. What is it about him that you don't like? Is it his voice? Is it his delivery? Is it the topics just seem so politically correct? Like political correctness has never made for a good podcast, ever. And you can't even say that about just hard news, because hard news is reporting facts more than delivering opinions. Political correctness is in regards to opinion. Panic is what's my panic meter on Iran? The United States has been in war with Iran since I've been alive, practically. Not war, but conflict, I should say. It's just another day. The sun rose in the same spot. It's going to set in the same spot. Still going to have enemies in the morning. And I don't know what I can do about it. If I could change any rule in the NBA, what would it be? Mine would be removing intentional fouling up 3 with 3 seconds left, fouling when losing to stop the clock. Oh, yeah, this is why the ELO mending has so many proponents, because the fouling at the end of these games that causes the final 2 minutes to last 20 real minutes is, oh, you want to talk about aesthetically unpleasing, that would certainly qualify. But since you asked, I would like to do the rule that I just discussed. I don't think anyone should be allowed to talk to the referee unless it is a nominated captain at certain 2 different points throughout each of the 4 quarters. Then if I could change any rule, it would be amending no making physical contact with the referees, and now no verbal contact as well. You will have your time to plead your case multiple times throughout a quarter. But if you do it during live action, it's an automatic T. Automatic. It doesn't even matter if you say, I hope your family's doing well. Boop. Boop. That would change so much, man. You never see them complaining at the Olympics. They get teed up so fast by those FIBA refs, man. So many unsportsmanlike conduct penalties go out. And unsportsmanlike acts also are for intentional fouling or embellishing, manipulating the rule book. Nick Media says, can we do some quick Knicks talk for a second? Trade deadline. What are you sending Yabu away for? He has no trade value. He's got no trade value. He is, Jaylen Brown's officially out. He's back from, do you see how ridiculous that box score was, by the way? Okay, before I get back to the Knicks talk. So I need to show you guys this. This is just crazy. People on Saturday night were probably busy watching football or something, but one of the most outlier box scores possible happened between the Spurs and the Celtics. And we're going to take a look at it here as soon as it loads, which it is doing now. Okay. San Antonio Spurs. See it on the screen right here, hopefully. Let me make sure you can as well. Okay. 44 three-pointers attempted by San Antonio. 20 free throws. Scroll down to Boston. 44 three-pointers attempted for the Boston Celtics. 4 free throws attempted. 0 from Jaylen Brown, who played 43 minutes and attempted 28 shots. And a lot of those included dribble penetration. 0 free throws. This is why he just got fined $35,000. He said, I'll take the fine. That was one of the more egregious games of inconsistency. And that's the word, the common denominator that you're going to be hearing in the NBA so often. Inconsistency. Why is it that the game is micromanaged in the first quarter differently than it is in the fourth when it slows down into the half-court sets and guys are allowed to kill each other? This is not the only sport, people, that does this. In the college football playoff between Miami and Ole Miss, the final play where Trinidad threw that sort of Hail Mary down the field. There's an unwritten rule in American football that if a Hail Mary is being thrown, pass interference is just like null and void. There's going to be so much hand fighting that you rarely see a referee throw a flag for anything on a Hail Mary. You just let it all go. If you catch it, whoever catches it, catches it. If they don't, the game ends. There will be no flag. In the final 5 minutes of an NBA game, especially during the playoffs, because of the defensive intensity, they naturally allow these guys to play more physically. Should the end of games be officiated differently than the first 35 to 40 minutes is always a question. Why is there such a difference? Jaylen Brown is no longer accepting of this inconsistency. He named the referees by name, said, I thought they were each terrible tonight for these reasons. I'm sick of this shit. It's not even that they're right or wrong. It's just inconsistent, and we have no clue what to expect, that they may just change their attitude on the fly and say, you know what, now we're calling the game tighter. And I asked Antonio this question earlier this morning, and I said, is it now necessary for players and coaching staffs to prepare scouting reports that include referee tendencies and attitudes? Because the way Tony Brothers views and officiates a game is going to be different than the way Scott Foster or Ed Malloy or Zach Zarba or Billy Kennedy, how they officiate a game. They have different tendencies. They have different ways of rewarding certain play or penalizing it. Should players and coaches be paying more attention to the referees, as much attention as the rotations and the star players on the other side? His answer was, this is mostly just on the players, that coaches shouldn't concern themselves. I'm like, man, I could hear the case for both on this. Coaches should be making a point to hammer in before a game is tipped off. We got Tony Brothers out there tonight, people. Like, we should definitely be running more of these sets because we have found that he is willing to actually reward this type of dribble penetration versus others. We shouldn't be taking as many spot up threes because his tendency is not to reward the landing space and one. Are we going to be pulling analytics on referees the same way that we do on players? Is that going to become popular? And then in the game between the Blazers and the Knicks on Sunday, Mike Breen on the MSG broadcast, I wouldn't expect many of you to hear this when it happened, but he not only complimented, but noted that the three officials all had, this is a rarity during regular season NBA, all three officials had multiple decade experience. They weren't all technically crew chiefs, but these were all three veteran officials. And there's a reason why only 26 total fouls were called during this game. It flowed. Reviews were very quick. And you can tell that there was just a little bit of a difference versus a newer official that is much more of a rule stickler because they are being graded by Monty McCutcheon, Joey Crawford, and whoever. I don't know if those two guys are still head of the referee development on the referees union side. But in the past, I have seen them sitting with clipboards at Summer League, like itemizing each and every call that these new aspiring referees got right, got wrong, and I'm sure that they got their own version of a quarterly review. And they don't want to have to, they obviously want to continue to be NBA referees and be promoted and gain tenure. And to do that, we need to officiate the rules as they're written. The problem is a lot of these rules are vague and they are also open to interpretation. So you get much more rule sticklers with the younger referees, in my opinion, which results in more whistles, which results in slower reviews, which leads to a demise in the rapport between the players and the officials because you're just calling everything and then you forget once, what the hell are you doing over here? We can't trust you. I'm doing a lot of yapping today. I'm sorry, chat. Questions, comments, concerns. We got plenty of time here. So, oh, Nick Media, you're proposing Jeremy Sohan for Yabu. I just don't know what Yabu. If the Knicks need anything right now, well, they have Huck Porty as the break glass in case of emergency center for Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm not totally trusting of Jordan Clarkson just yet, but Deuce McBride will move back to the bench to spearhead that second unit. Landry Shamit's due back too. I guess the Knicks need a stretch, something like getting really picky here. They got OG and Mikal. Could they go find another like 3-and-D guy? I guess you can never not have enough of those. The hell, where's Pacome Dadier, by the way? Rondo asks, do you foresee Thunder making a move before the deadline? Trey Murphy would fix a lot of their minor. They have no issues. OKC's the champs. They're the best team. And they have an opportunity against San Antonio tomorrow, NBC, to reestablish that dominance. They have now seen these guys, 4, maybe even 5 times this year. We know that they've been exposed, but OKC is still undoubtedly the favorites. And then Isaiah Hartenstein's been out with injury. But this is an opportunity for Chet Holmgren also, really, to grab a whole chokehold of that Defensive Player of the Year. Something tells me they're going to come out and make a point tomorrow. And no, first of all, Trey Murphy's not going anywhere. He's probably the franchise cornerstone next to Derek Queen. There's only one expendable player, and it's Zion. What I know, what I've been told, Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III, Derek Queen, Jeremiah Fears, untouchable. Baseball coach Mike says baseball has analytics on umpire strike zones and their tendencies to call strikes. Man, I'm telling you. ERC in the chat. Wob, tell us the reasons why AJ Debonsa is the number one pick this summer. I don't need to tell you. You just watch for yourself. This is now you see why Cooper Flagg reclassified. AJ, Boozer, Caleb Wilson, Darren Peterson. Those are like, you could take any of those four with the first overall pick and not miss. And I'm sure there's others too. Did I see Marty Supreme? I did. I thought it was perfectly a Safdie movie. It was stressful, but it's extremely well done. And that was a well-earned Golden Globe for Timothée Chalamet. It did quite well with that character. It was just desperate to get whatever he wanted. He's willing to sacrifice relationships. Given an inch, takes a mile type of personality. There's always that, I don't think technically a protagonist, but there's always that character in the Safdie movie who's like oh, you want to fuck with me? You want to fuck with me? Well, you're going to find out. And it's just totally unexpected. Like the jewelry scene in Uncut Gems, and then the guy with the dog. You would never guess he was capable of doing some of that shit at the end of the movie. But he was. Did I see? No, I did not see Begonia. I did watch the season premiere of The Pitt and Industry. And it's just like 10 out of 10. This is going to be such an incredible season of Industry. And The Pitt. The Pitt is so ER. It's so ER. And you know John Wells created, directing that damn show. Perfectly ER. And Noah Wiley is so Dr. Carter. It's such a millennial show. God bless. Game of the night tonight. Ugh. I only had one game in the 70s, or the green side of the 70s, and that was 76ers Raptors. But there may be guys out in this game. We have a lot of game time decisions with Joel Embiid, Paul George, Brandon Ingram, unless I missed something. This was a fun game last night. Maxey hit a big shot. There was a couple of big turnovers and went to overtime. Colin Murray Boyles all of a sudden is Defensive Player of the Year. Does anybody care? I know we care. Do we think people out there care? How many people care about the NBA right now, especially with all this college football and NFL going on? It's not going to change my opinion, but it sure feels like the NBA regular season is irrelevant as ever. In the past, people cared because there was such a reality show on and off the floor. Maybe the NBA does need a lot of those off-the-court storylines because people are not willing to give the actual X's and O's the attention that so much of X's and O's Twitter thinks people care about. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I promise you and implore, if you are an aspiring content creator of some kind, that you guys. Yeah, there's a very active. Oh, right as I say that, Joel Embiid available to play with his knee injury today. Paul George available to play. Second leg of a back-to-back. Hey, that's progress for the 76ers. They get their veteran guys running on back-to-backs. Now, it's not a true road back-to-back because they didn't have to leave. But still, Embiid is so banged up to see him playing back-to-backs is a nice little surprise. Okay, so my point on let's just love basketball portion of NBA Twitter, which is a very loud faction of fans, but they're not very copious. There's not a copious amount of them. They're just very loud. I can promise you most people do not care about the floppy action that the Golden State Warriors are running in a regular season game against the Sacramento Kings. If you want to include this as a part of your pregame show and postgame analysis, that's totally different. I'm speaking more towards the social media aspect of things. That it's going to be very difficult to entertain a mainstream audience with that type of material. Now, basketball fans can appreciate it, but there is a very low ceiling on the number of people that are seeking out that type of content. I have tested this. I have lived it. There needs to be a WWE wrestling aspect to the regular season to keep people engaged and involved, because it's such a low entry of education necessary that you can just be walking by a television in the airport concourse and see on the lower third that someone did something on Instagram and it's a conversation starter, versus having to watch a 2.5-hour game to talk about some of the elevator door sets that worked for this team and didn't for the other. Right? In a perfect world, we get everyone to watch all of the games, and that's where the discourse originates from. But that is just not realistic. You need to have these low-hanging fruit storylines that you need to be able to incorporate in your deep analysis of the game, which is what I think makes our specific talk show so interesting, because you can balance both. You could have high-level conversations while still speaking in layman's terms that someone who doesn't watch the games or can still be entertained. That's the sweet spot. That's how you build an audience. So if you are ambitious about creating content, be smart while also appealing to the biggest audience possible. That's my advice to all of you out there. It's probably the only reason why I think I've made it this far, is with that type of mentality and content strategy. Ingram is available to play tonight, per the chat. Like, this fucking lag shit, man. In content strategy. At least you can hear me when it lags. Okay. The screen freezes for a second, but you can still hear me. All right. That's better than it just jumping with the audio. Shit, I'm watching college football too, man. Helwick asks, isn't this the most watched regular season of the 21st century? I think we're exaggerating on the decline of the regular season here. Okay. So if we're relying on ratings, first of all, like, the streaming is now being included in Nielsen. That was not the case. Everything is up. Anytime that you see someone in media say like, oh my gosh, my show was up percentage points, everyone's show is going to be up with streaming being included in ratings. It wasn't previously, it is now. They just had to find the way to properly do it and when to start. Everyone's show is going to be up. Algorithms and social media are based on engagement. It's a For You timeline versus chronological. Everything's going to be up because people are spending more time in impressions and scrolling past things. It just, they're finding ways to cook the books when the cultural relevance of the product, it's very clear. And I consider myself someone who does have a pulse on this. It's very clear. It doesn't have the same impact as society continues to fracture into very little specific niches. Everyone is in their little bubbles of things that they enjoy the most. There is no more monoculture. So the NBA too becomes, well, people that care about basketball and care about the NBA, they're going to watch. But it's no longer like something that has the impact on pop culture daily the way that it once did. And honestly, a lot of other things did as well. It's not just the NBA, it's a product of society. That's true, Rondo. Yes. He says in the chat, I think there's a whole another world out there of people watching the NBA that are not on social media. They're just as nerdy about the game as we are. That's if any of you have Sirius XM, I know it requires being here in North America. Our audience is much more, I would say, like older millennial, early Gen X, and they're not social media users. But when they call in and articulate their points, I'm like, that guy fucking knows ball. And I would never expect, just based on their age and the way they present their point, they got none of that from social media. You can tell almost instantly when someone's on Twitter too much and when they call in and present a point around some topic that was trending on Twitter that was probably fake or a Centel or some bullshit. I'm like, oh my God, like that person is way too online. But yes, there are plenty of people that find joy in watching this particular product without feeling the need to be able to comment on it through that medium. They may do it on an audio only platform like radio or podcasting, but social media, yes, I'm right there with you. The world does not revolve around Twitter specifically now, especially. Maybe it once did, that it was the reason why a lot of content and show topics were created, because so many people were using that as a home base. But since now there's so many different options and it's been diluted, it just doesn't have the same impact that it once did, despite numbers being up. Numbers are going to be up because people have to find ways to cook the books to keep their jobs. And they will find ways to continue to sell something as being popular, even though realistically it's not. Thoughts on what's up, Stoney? Thoughts on Schroeder versus Luka and the NBA wanting to suspend until LA and Sac are playing head to head again. So we went after him in like the bus terminal or the bus lobby or dock, I should say, right? Is that what happened? You followed him through the tunnel. You're not supposed to go to the opposing locker rooms, even though the secret tunnels exist. Was there a police presence? Yeah, I mean, the shit Luka said was pretty, should have taken that money. You know, they've been yapping. I bet Schroeder was yapping during the FIBA World Cup when Germany won. I bet Schroeder was, because Schroeder was the best player on the floor. I bet he had things to say in multiple languages to Luka and everyone else. And that was an opportunity probably for Luka to get him back. But nothing is going to happen whatsoever. Unless it's beef stew, nothing is going to happen. Carter says, worst trade in NBA history, maybe sports history. It is now with Anthony Davis, now that he's got this long-term hand injury and he has zero trade market value. I am now finally, and people were yelling at me that I took so long to get to this determination. This is now the worst trade in North American sports history, yes. Anthony Davis. When it happened, I said, man, I'm willing to give it the next 3 months, because if Dallas wins a championship with that formidable front line, then you can understand why they did it. So I'm going to pump the brakes. And then I gave him the grace period of the following season. I know Kyrie Irving is not there. Anthony Davis could still be available and carry this team, and he is not. He is not. It's the worst trade in North American professional sports history. Period. Schroeder slap. That sounded like Olga. You guys hear that shit? Olga might be slamming doors out there. Anyway, 4:10 p.m. Pacific time. Believe my time is up for today. Fun show. Appreciate the prompts and the questions, guys. Hopefully you either learned something or were entertained. That was the theme of today's show, with some certain podcasting out there and whatnot. Well, we'll have time to talk about Peyton Watson. So wait, next time we do a show, it'll be Wednesday, and we'll be able to react to Spurs Thunder, because it's got Noah Eagle on the call, NBC. Big boy basketball game. That's a 97 fun rating game. That will be a 24-hour. No matter how that game goes, there's going to be 24 hours worth of content from that one. I would be dreading Spurs Thunder too, because it's tough to beat a team this good that many times. And if they get the last one, you know that they're just going to put that in the bank and we're like, we're good. We're good. They ain't shit. And everything the Spurs accomplished before that is going to be forgotten. You know the way that this content cycle works. What have you done for me lately? De'Aaron Fox is starting to feel awfully expendable and replaceable. Ja Morant thing is done. Ja Morant's, I don't even know where he's going. Who would take Ja Morant, pay assets for Ja Morant right now? Is Milwaukee that desperate? I don't even know what Milwaukee can offer. Kuzma, Bobby Portis. What are we doing? Anyway, fun show today, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Always down to answer whatever. If you're watching this and just not commenting, stalking in the darkness, that's cool too, but you should feel comfortable in asking me anything you want. As long as it doesn't get me into trouble, I'm willing to answer pretty much anything. I don't want to have to spill tea on someone's business, but you can ask me questions about the industry, the NBA, or anything above. Yeah, that's why the Kings are like the only team. My perfect movie analogy was the Cave of Wonders from Aladdin, where Apu. Okay, see this poker chip? Do not touch anything in the Cave of Wonders unless it's the genie lamp. Otherwise, the Cave of Wonders will collapse on top of you. And Apu, Aladdin's little monkey, sees this red poker chip. He sees the red gem. And then you see his eyes light up. And I have to touch it. His tongue comes out. I have to touch the gem. Guess what he does? He touches the gem. And then you know what happens for the rest of that movie. The Sacramento Kings are Apu in this red poker chip. They always have to touch the poker chip. That's what the Kings do. DeRozan, LaVine, anything shiny, let me touch it. Ja Morant is shiny. Let me touch it. They are the team that's going to end up with Ja Morant, I feel like, somehow, some way. What a great scene. Damn it, Apu. Rondo wants me to read up on South. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Man-eaters on Wikipedia. Quite a fascinating read. Okay. Homework for next show. We'll do that next show. I'm going to go get ready for these games, one of which has already started. I will see you guys on the timeline Wednesday, roughly 3:15 p.m. Pacific, 6:15 Eastern, wherever in the world it is you are watching. It's been a pleasure, my friends. GG's in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. Keep this going Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Adios.